Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have Grayson Little with us. He grew up here at Seacoast. I mean, like old school. He has been here forever. He's been doing ministry here at Seacoast, most recently worship leader at the Johns Island campus, but he is now pursuing his music career full-time, and we're excited for you to get to know him. And just FYI, you can go to GraysonLittleMusic.com to check out his music, and we appreciate you guys listening.
Just because I don't believe or agree doesn't mean I can't learn from you.
Why did you have to bring that up?
Okay, that one I'm super embarrassed about.
Do you like me?
Do I like you?
Yeah.
As an individual or as a podcast?
Just as a person.
No, I like you.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool.
And I don't have any interest in appearing to be stronger than I am.
I ain't bow to Nebuchadnezzar's statue. He gonna lead. You feel me?
How do we love people who see the world differently than we do?
What would it look like if we truly loved all of our neighbors? Could listening to their stories be the first step? This is Seacoast Church, and there's way more to talk about.
Welcome to the Seacoast podcast, everyone. Do you guys like it? And I can never say this guy's name. M. Night Shyamalan movies. Yeah, Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs. Have y'all heard of this guy?
I've heard of them. I maybe have seen one of them.
I've seen Sixth Sense, but I didn't know who he was, though.
I don't really care.
Yeah, don't really care. So there is one of his movies, and to be honest with you, most people who've watched this, like I know my brother likes it a lot. I enjoyed it a lot, but Priscilla didn't really like it. Some close friends that we watched with didn't really like it. I'm surprised, but it's called Old. And this group of people end up on this island, and they start recognizing some really weird things. And basically what's happening is everybody is aging at an extremely fast pace. So even the little kids will eventually die that day on the island. That's how rapidly. So the kids were the first ones where the parents are looking at their kids and they're like, oh my gosh, my 7-year-old now looks 16. This is messed up. Something's going on. But at the very end, when people are dying off, there was like a couple of quotes, and I was like, that is some powerful stuff, because imagine the complete shift in their brain going from the regular hustle, day-to-day life, the stresses and everything, and now they're on an island where they're like, we can't get off of this island, and we're going to age and die. And so the guy, I just thought these were beautiful. This guy looks at his wife and he says, what were we even arguing about? I'm not even mad anymore, because they were so delusional and they're like, what is even going on? And then the guy says, why were we even trying to leave this beach? It's so beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, just how epic of, in my opinion, this Shyamalan threw this lesson in there of just perspective of the now. Like they were like, what were we even arguing about? Why were we trying to leave this beach? It's so beautiful. But anyway, that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
About Time.
About Time. Yes. Yes. Priscilla accuses me for having a crush on Rachel McAdams.
I love her. I don't have a crush on her. I do not have a crush, but I love her. Like, I would love to be her friend. She does seem like so cute, and she seems fun.
She seems like a real person.
I love the way she acts. She's very believable. Like,
when
cries.
She's pretending to be somebody else, she seems like a real person.
Oh. Yeah. Because she's that believable. Like, I believe she's really that person. But when she cries, I cry.
You're talking to somebody who still wants to believe in Santa Claus.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Lynne,
I do.
Wait. Ease up, Lynn.
Is he not?
Oh, shoot. Kids.
Okay. Anyways, but About Time kind of had the same thing. Because, like, when it was like, have you ever seen it?
No.
Will you ever? You probably won't want to.
I'm not going to watch it. You're
I always have to be careful.
Well,
because I remember actually talking about The Sixth Sense. I think Greg Surratt talked about it in one message, and he told the ending, and now my kids were completely like, well, now we don't need to see it because I already know how it ends, and they were still upset about that. So I don't want to ruin the ending. But he had the same kind of thing of how it was about going back in time and fixing things. And it was like during the end, it was only like a matter of like a couple minutes, but it was about the perspective and going back and just remembering just the time that you're in, enjoying the moment, and live each day as if it was your last. Because it was like, right, because like when he went back in time, it was like he had to go fix mistakes and get it right. So like he messed up if he was in a bad mood. He went back in time to fix it and be in a better mood or something. So he was like, I need to live my every day like that without having to go back in time and fix it. I should just live that way. So it was just beautiful. Oh, but I love that. So if you've seen, that just sounded a little bit like that.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
gaining that perspective.
For sure.
So
and before that movie, Marty McFly and Doc.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
They
I've
nailed
seen
perspective
I
too.
need to see that again. Is that kid appropriate? Appropriate?
It's not.
It's not?
Well, the
Marty
first one
McFly.
is, but like some of that, I feel like I went
a little
back
crazy.
and
The
like,
innuendo is a
watched
little-
them, and it was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Even like once he goes to the future, there's some abuse there.
Yeah,
and like
with the
unhealthy.
mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I remember very little of the second one. I watched
Yeah.
the third one a lot as a kid, and definitely the
I don't remember
first
I
one.
like the
third.
Western. The
Yeah.
Western
Was
is
that
one
the
of my
third?
favorites.
Yes, that was the third.
Okay.
So the first and the third, I think, are the
Yeah.
best.
What was the second? Was the second the skateboard one?
Yes.
Okay.
If
And
y'all-
Biff he gets in the time machine, comes back, takes the almanac, makes the bets, and then changes the future.
Okay. Yeah. I don't remember a lot of those.
Yeah. Yeah. If y'all haven't seen the most recent documentary on Michael J. Fox, it is extremely
haven't.
moving. Like
Oh,
I
I
definitely
love
was
him.
emotionally through most of it just
Yeah.
because of what he has overcome in
Yeah.
his life and the positivity that he's maintained. And I love his love story. Like most
Yes.
Hollywood stars, married, divorce, not knocking them,
Yeah,
but
he's
Michael
still
J. Fox
together
is still
from the
with,
show, from
with the
Family
girl on
Ties.
Family Ties.
Yes.
They're still married.
I know.
I mean, it's just
I love
it's,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
And I
cool.
love him. I'll have
Yeah.
to watch that. I love a good
Yeah,
documentary.
for sure. For sure. If you need my Apple sign in, just let me know.
Yes. And
Or
I'll
is
give you
that-
my Netflix.
Yeah, cool.
He's not saying that on air, Apple. He's not going to share his sign-in.
Yes, he will. Write that down.
Well, here's the thing. I think I don't think, I know that they have a limited amount of people that you can share to. So they obviously know
they
that we want to do
should,
that.
as expensive as all these
Yeah,
are.
seriously.
I got
Stick
Disney
it to
Plus
the man.
and Hulu. Anybody want those? You give me something, I'll give you mine.
Disney Plus and Hulu?
I'm
Yeah.
out.
Do you have
give me
like a
something.
little, do you pay for any of that stuff?
I don't
Yeah.
do any of it.
Netflix or anything?
You shouldn't. They're all bad.
I
Yeah.
don't do any of it.
So you
Yeah.
should. I should cancel mine right now.
Really?
No, I'm not going to, but I should. They're very expensive. They get you in at like free for the first 3 months, and then you get used to having it. We probably don't even really watch it.
There's a whole nother episode or sermon message on that.
Is there? Okay. Well, write that down, Joey, for next time.
All right. Well, hey, I have definitely opened the door for you guys to come to the table to talk about stuff, and y'all never do. So I always get to decide what we're going to talk about. And today we're going to
Love
talk
it.
about belief.
Great.
And I want to know why you guys still believe. And I think it's a very interesting question because how long have you been a believer? How long have you believed
I
in
would
that?
say about 15, 16 years.
15, 16 years? What about you?
I'm trying to do the math because I think it might have been when I can remember, like when I saw God's like evidence was probably like 2009. So what's that?
2009. Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
High
I
five.
Yeah.
You
So
say
believed
that's
in
the
him, but
same
that's where
year.
I
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I
became real.
Yeah, I was accused by a Pharisee. What's the adjective form of Pharisee? Pharisaical? Pharisaical? Is it Pharisaical?
I don't know.
That was fun to say.
Spell
Pharisaical.
it.
No, I'm just going to stick with Pharisaical.
Okay. Yeah, I like
Made
it.
up a word.
But I've
It
had,
should be one.
You
I've
are
had
welcome.
someone tell me before that because I don't know the exact time and day when God saved me, that I must not be saved. And like, okay, well, sorry that you think that, but I don't know. I always believed, and I don't know when that transformation happened, but I definitely feel like I've been transformed. But that's so I would just say my whole life as long as I could remember. But I did, so this is kind of the direction that I'm heading in. I would love to hear if y'all have had any sort of moments like this in your life, and just in general, why do you believe? But here are a couple of things that have happened in my life. But I will say this, that I was so buried in Bad Religion. That's a punk band, right? Bad Religion.
There's a song.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was buried in such destructive religion that I had to somehow, with the Holy Spirit's help, get out of that. And it was a tumultuous process because it also included. It was almost like not only was the bad religion something that I needed to process, and it was just kind of thrown up in the air, but also a lot of belief. I feel like I have been in every angle of doubt that you could imagine, and I would say it was like, I've been to hell and back. Like it wasn't fun. Like I didn't enjoy that. And now I feel like for the first time, because of a lot of that religious stuff that kept me from God in the special ways, I feel like for the first time, maybe in the last 5 years of my life, probably post my mental health crisis, I feel like it's the first time I've actually felt like I've had a trusting relationship and a good, kind, loving God.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, I wouldn't say that I didn't trust God a long time ago, but it was more along the lines of, this ain't a safe place for me. This is something that this is a person that I need to really watch out for. And if I don't do things right, it's on me if my life falls apart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like just not a trusting, you love me, you have called me righteous, you love me before I even did anything. It wasn't that sort of, relationship. But two things, if somebody were to say, dude, why do you believe so strongly in this faith that you claim? So when I was a kid, so I would say conservatively 3rd grade, but I would say if I had to guess, I would say more 1st grade. I'll never forget having all these spiritual thoughts and even fears because I knew what hell was. I knew what heaven was. And I remember in my bedroom, and I can even remember, I was really close to my bed, but I was standing. And talk about childlike faith. I literally just looked up and I said, God, am I going to be in heaven with you forever? And I'm telling you, whatever happened in that moment was real enough for me as an adult still not to doubt it. But I felt like my little heart was just overwhelmed with like a joy,
so sweet.
like a joy and a little comfort, almost like a pat on the head. And I remember as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, what was that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so as an adult, I still look back and I'm like, I think I'm going to get to heaven. And I get to ask Jesus, hey, was that you? Was that you in my bedroom? And then the other real big one is for the few people that know the story of how Priscilla and I got together, if you ask somebody who knows, they'll be like, oh my gosh, what a crazy journey. Because it really was. We met each other at college, and then the seriousness of the relationship kind of scared her off because she's like, I'm going to be single until I'm 30. I don't want to get married. And so it was just like this crazy up and down, up and down. I mean, I felt like for a year I had to get her out of my head because we were never going to end up together. But I won't get into the story here because it is crazy. Well, I had a dream spring of 2000. It's a really bizarre dream. And I woke up and I was like, what was that all about? And then I forgot about it. 2 days later, all of that, you know how you forget dreams? All of it came back clearly. And I just started journaling and I wrote down what that dream meant, how Priscilla and I would end up together. And I realized I was right in the middle of my dream.
Wow.
And so I went to my journal. And I'm telling you, I could like see where I was in the dream. And I was at a part where it said, like this part of the dream meant you go get her. And so I said, so I was in New Hampshire. I found out my brother was vacationing up there. So I was staying with him. But I told Priscilla, I said, I'm going to drive to Iowa right now. She's like, and most people would be like, what in the world are you talking about? You're going to drive. She was like, okay. Like she didn't even hesitate. So I drove for like 23 hours straight. But anyway, I was floored because that dream that I had like 2 years prior just unfolded and just a really great. So I go back to that and it's like, those are two major experiences that I've had that if I were to stop believing in God, I would have no explanation for. And so I do get a little weird when Christians, I understand the overemphasis that some people can have on for experiences, but I definitely push back when people try to almost negate them because I'm like, it seems like all of the superheroes in the faith had big experiences. Paul, I mean, that's a low-hanging fruit one right there. If somebody were to ask you in a plane, hey, you're a Christian, why do you believe? What would y'all say? Like, what keeps you in the faith?
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
I'll go. And I think some of it is from the moment that I encountered the Lord, or like, because I grew up in the church. I always believed God was real, but I didn't have a relationship with him.
Right.
And I didn't realize that. So I grew up being like, yeah, God's real. And I never doubted him. But I guess it's the difference between like demons knowing that, like demons know he's real and they shudder, you know? And so that was my life until my brother died in 2008. Before that, like 5 months before my brother died, one of my best friends from college had an aneurysm and died. Then 5 months later, my brother died. And then a month after that, the guy I had been dating for like a year and a half broke up with me. And so I was in a fog anyway from losing two people that I loved. And I just spiraled. So like whatever my life was there, it just got darker. You know, I probably spent the next 6-7 months like going to work, going to the bars, going to work, going to the bars, just... And early 2009, a paralegal I worked with invited me to church with her to Seacoast. And I remember that day sitting and at the time the Irmo campus had pews because they were meeting in an old Baptist church. And I remember sitting in the pew and hearing Pastor Greg, and it just felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And even the things that he was saying, like it was convicting me of ways that I was living, but I didn't feel any like shame in it. And so I just felt like, oh, I'm not supposed to, like I wasn't created to be like this. And so that was the moment that I went from like, oh, God's real to, oh no, like he's more than just real. And so, but I didn't like profess faith in him at that moment. Right. So I like I went and bought a Bible. I'm starting to read the scripture, and I love reading the Bible. And that's why I think like even you saying people swinging from one extreme of like experiences only to no experience, for me, it was like that was an emotional experience in that moment. Sitting in that pew, hearing the word and like what it did to my heart and like feeling release, and then opening scripture, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Right. And so I'm reading, and I get to I'm in the New Testament, I'm at the point where Jesus is like, on that day, if you're on the roof, don't go back in your house. If you're in the fields, like, don't go back. And I just read that, and it was so interesting. Like, some people have this, like, Jesus loves me, and I read that, and I'm like, I don't love him. And I want to. Like if he were to appear right now, I wouldn't recognize him. Like I wouldn't know him. And so it was that moment that I was like, I want to know you. I want to recognize you. I want to walk with you. And so it was like this combination of that experience in the pews to like being in my house. And then I remember, I don't know how long after that, I was vacuuming and I was in the dining room and I'm just thinking about hell, actually. And I'm thinking about Christ dying on the cross. And it like hits me what he did. And I just remember like I just dropped the vacuum cleaner, fell on my face, you know? And I'm like, he loves me, you know? And so I just like, 15 years later, I can feel that moment of like experiencing him and knowing what he did. And so in the past 15 years, like, spending time in his presence, reading his word, journaling, dreams, all of these things have just like added to that. Yeah. You know, like I can't, it's like Paul, like where are we going to go? Not Paul, Peter.
Yeah.
I have that written down.
Where are we going to go?
Where else would I go? Where else would I go?
You know, like I can't turn back. Right. Like what else? I've done the other thing. I know what's on the outside. Right. Like where else am I going to go? And so, yeah.
That's beautiful,
so beautiful. It really is. We need tissues in here. There they are. They're over there. Do you want me to get them for you?
No, thank you.
You did that very well. You're a pretty crier when you talk. I am not. I think my voice goes high and it's not all over the place.
Why do you still believe? Lindsay Lohan?
Yes, because
big
of
impact
her.
On your life?
Well, it's so
Freaky
funny.
Friday.
Yes, I do but I like the original. I like Patty Duke's version. It's funny that you asked this because Lee just told a story, and that's why I remember 2009, because of a story he told at dinner just like 2 days ago that I forgot. But, I mean, I believe, long story short, just because I've seen it. He's healed me. He's healed my friends. He's gotten us out of debt. He's just done things that, like, there's no rhyme or reason for it. It doesn't make sense, and he's done it. So I've seen it. But I do the story that he told where I remembered the date was, it was 2009. So, like when the market, that's like when it crashed. I had lost my job. I had Caden and ended up getting pregnant with the twins. And that whole thing in itself was just weird, like, because I had worked my whole life and then here I'm laid off and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? I'm supposed to work. And Lee's like, maybe you're just supposed to be home. And it was just like, what? I don't understand what you're saying. Like, I think I'm supposed to work. But anyways, he wasn't traveling that much, but he was with John Mark at the time, and they didn't have a lot of gigs going on, I guess is what you call it. And he said he had a conversation with him, and John Mark was just telling him, I think this is a good thing that she lost her job. I mean, we were devastated because we're like, how are we going to pay the bills, blah, blah, blah. And
did he start singing to you?
He did. He really started. He started it. No, just kidding. But he said, and so he had this conversation, and I totally didn't remember this, but he said he had a conversation with him, and he was saying he thought this was good, and that Lee has faith, but I don't, and that we've never really prayed together. Because it was like, and to be honest, if I would have known Lee was a pastor's son, I probably wouldn't have talked to him because I was intimidated. I didn't know. I loved, I knew Jesus. I went to church when I was little. When our favorite preachers, what we called them back then, left, we stopped going to church. So I didn't have a relationship or nothing. I believed in him, but that was as far as it went. So anyways, and we never really, I guess just with kids and work, we just did never have those conversations. Started going to church, and so slowly getting in there and realizing it wasn't as intimidating, but we never really prayed together. We didn't really talk about it. And then that's when John Mark was like, I think y'all need to pray together. I think you need to, kind of get together on that and build that faith. And so he said, we wrote down, and he said, your father loves you. And just like how you are with your kids, he wants you to ask him for things. Because like, how good does it feel like when you're able to give your kids the things that they want and that they ask? And that's just how good he is. Mm-hmm. But you have to ask, and no matter how big or small. And so we sat down, we wrote a list of things that we were praying for. And it was on just a piece of paper. And I think it was maybe Lee to get more paying jobs so I could stay home with the kids, pay off our debt, healthy kids, just all these things. We just wrote them down and we prayed over it together. And so, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of people, fast forward a couple of years later. And he said, I came like running to him with a piece of paper. I'm probably going to cry because this is just so beautiful. But he said, I was like, God did all this. I was like, look, I found this paper, like I lost it. And he did it all, like everything. And I think that's the moment that I was like, oh my God, he's real. Because it was like—
You were about to say freaking real.
Yeah, I was. Because it's like these were things that like nobody knew, nobody could have done. And it's like, and we were walking in the things that we prayed for. And so it was like at that moment, it was just like, oh my gosh, okay, so what else? And it's like, and he's just done it over and over again. Like I remember even just one thing of like where we were going through a hard time, and I didn't even tell Lee this, but I was like praying for someone to give us a car. We needed a car. We had problems. And on his side, he didn't tell me, but like someone called him out of the blue and was like, hey, what's going on? And he told him, hey, I think we need a car, blah, blah, blah. But again, we didn't talk about it. And then he met with that guy, and then he was like, well, have you been praying about it? And he was like, well, no. And the guy was like, well, don't you think you should? Why don't you ask your father for it? And kind of, so he started to. And then like a week later, I think the guy called him and said he had a car. And then so again, that was all happening. Lee comes to me. I had no idea all that was going on. And he's like, this guy just said he has a car for us. He didn't know I was praying for it and all that. And it was just little things like that, like, it's not a coincidence. It doesn't make sense, but like that God knew. But again, we were both praying for something, and then he just did it. And so I don't know. So that's why. So and over. And just like you said, it's too much details.
Right.
I know if you've heard Lee telling some of his stuff, there's so much, and like it's over and over. And so now we start to keep a blessings journal, which I thought I lost, and I was devastated, but I found it.
Nice.
And it's like when you look through, it's at least 4 years old now. But like when I go back, and I love to flip through, but just to see the things that I wrote, thankful for and blessed, and then where we've come from there. I don't know. So it's just a good reminder, and it's very overwhelming thinking about that, like how much he loves us, how good he is, and how much I wish other people could get to experience that and see that, And then sometimes it is hard to nail the exact moment that something happened, but it's like when you talking like that, like that feeling that you get, and you can't even really express it, you know?
Right.
It's just so beautiful.
Man, y'all brought some awesome testimony up in here.
It's just so good.
I love it.
I'm very proud of myself for not bawling really bad.
And that was a beautiful cry.
Okay. Because I
Joey didn't laugh when you started crying.
Thank you for that. But I feel like I am just a crier. Like I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I don't have the words.
Yeah.
That's how, or when I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So,
And for me, that has come in my faith. I feel like I used to not be a crier.
I
feel like the more I've walked with him, like he just makes your heart tender.
Yeah. I was just like, because he's so tender. And I think that's like when you start realizing that how good he is and how sweet he is, I get goosebumps every time because he's just so good.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up where else would I go? Because I even wrote that down. And I have been and this will sound really weird. Like I don't feel like I'm ever going to lose my belief. But if I ever even got close there, I would probably just make a decision in my head. Nah, I'm not going to stop believing.
Yeah.
Where else would I go? I don't even know what would life be if I just stopped believing. And so I'll tell y'all a very special moment I had because, one part of my story with all the doubt and shake up and all the religion, I landed where I would say see all of them non-essentials, but I see things a lot differently from a lot of people that I worship and fellowship with. And sometimes that can bid for a little bit of feeling maybe lonely or something like that. But I was talking to Pastor Greg, I want to say it was for a Seacoast episode, and he started going into how his faith is boiled down. And I was listening to him. And as he kept going, I was like, no way this is going to happen. No way. But the two things that his faith boils down to are the exact two things that I feel like the Holy Spirit gave me years ago. And I'm like, him and I, who see things a lot differently, when it comes down to what our faith rests on, I feel like the Holy Spirit gave us both the same thing. And it comes down to, I don't see how there can't be a God, and I believe Jesus rose from the dead. That's it. Those are the two things that I will go to my grave believing. Everything else, I just don't know.
Right.
It's just not clear to me. It's not as clear as it is to other people. There's certain things and I think that God saved me from feeling like I needed certainty. Like certainty opposes faith. Like now I would say I'm quite certain in a lot of things that I believe, but I used to feel like as a kid that if I'm not certain, then I'm lacking faith and then I'm in danger of hell sort of thing. So it was just this cycle of constant fear where it's just like, I get to have faith as a child and just believe. I don't have to be certain.
Right. You don't have to know everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's very freeing.
Yeah. And I did want to ask you guys, and we'll close this up here, and it may take a little bit, but what would be a significant change in your faith through the years? And it could be a long time ago or recent. And I think for me, the most recent shift was obviously the salvation that we have throughout eternity is more important than the here and now, but I value now more than ever the salvation that I get to experience here on this earth. Like I want to be saved from a connection to money that's unhealthy. I want to be saved from being afraid of the uncertainty of the future. Like I want to be saved here. Like not just then, but I want to experience salvation. And I believe that's what Jesus is talking about when he says, I've come to bring you life in abundance. Like I want to be saved here from all of that stuff. And I do think it's a process, and it's probably not something where I will completely arrive, but I can definitely look back years ago and be like, I have come a long way with where I'm grounded. You know?
Yeah.
Mine is very similar to that, I think. And especially, I would say over the past year and a half, of like this time matters for eternity, right? Like we're not supposed to be focused on this world, but what we do in this world does matter. And that realization of like, there is a judgment of the good or not, or lack of good that we've done. And we are going to hold up our works and he's going to set it on fire. Right? And it's either going to be wood, hay, and stubble, or it's going to be precious metals and jewels. And so I think, that has been something I've been wrestling with recently of like, Lord, what am I doing with this time? And just redefining holiness. And even like where I used to operate in like here's the line and you don't cross the line and this is what you can do and you can't do. And now I'm moving into the like, even in the things that are permissible, like is it beneficial? And like, do I look like the world? And that's been it's been like last year my word was discipline. And I feel like the Lord has been like starting this process in me of challenging all the ways that I look like the world. And how I'm not holy as he is holy. And so I think that is like where I've like come in my faith from that moment of salvation to now, like he didn't just save me, he saved me for a reason. And we are conquerors and co-heirs, and like reigning means something, and what we do on this earth means something, and it's going to mean something in eternity.
Yeah. That's so good.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just, I don't know. You asked for like a specific thing?
I mean, just any thoughts.
I mean, I'm trying to be, for myself personally, just more intentional with sitting in solitude and just getting closer and closer to God, because it's like I feel like I know him, I love him, I believe that he's real, faith, trust, all that, but I don't feel like I spend enough intentional time with him, I guess, and even like in the moments where I'm reading a book about it and it's like I'm reading the book to read it and I don't sit there because of like things in my to-do list to do and stuff like that. So I don't know, I'm very grateful for how good he is, how sovereign he is, and that I have the trust and the faith, but I think just I'm working on trying to, I don't know, just get closer and lean in and trust everything, even like I've been through trials and hard things, and I know it's all for good. And just some of the things I've been allowed to see why he allowed us to go through certain things. And I see that in some things he didn't. And I'm trying to be okay with all that and just the trust that I have in him to know that it was all for a good reason and purpose. But just, I don't know, just trying to figure all that out. What our purpose is here. What are we doing here? Am I doing it right? Am I doing the best that I can to know him and others see him through me? Yeah.
No, for sure. I wonder, and it would be very overgeneralizing to like use you and I as an example, Lynn, because I don't know if you would put your story in this category, but I would say there's probably a lot of people who can point to their life and say, "Oh, that looks a lot like the prodigal son, the son that went away and came back."
Exactly, not a lot.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Well,
that's
then
my favorite one.
All right, then we'll go ahead and say that with Lynn. God has had to spend the last couple of decades in my life trying to help me get out of the older brother mentality. Like I didn't have the prodigal son experience almost ever. Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't anything that I'd ever needed to repent of or change or anything like that, but there never was this, I'm out, I'm going to just do whatever, ever. I had to work out of the big brother stuff. So it's like when you talk about all this discipline and everything, I feel like in my personal journey, I have to be careful with how much I focus on that, because I will cross right into big brother territory, which is very harmful for me. Like it's not well, it's harmful for anybody. For anybody to think, oh, well, I can measure up and be a certain way to earn God. But it's crazy. I think God has to, I mean, it's probably stating the obvious, but God has to work with us in our ways. Individual ways and where we come from.
That's why there are two brothers in the story.
Right.
And that is so interesting too, because it's, even for me, I have to check myself because I'm always like, man, it must be nice. I wish I'd always walked with the Lord.
Yes.
I wish I'd not,
Why
I wish
didn't I do it sooner?
Like, you look at people and it's easy to compare and be like, oh, well, she's always loved the Lord. She never did this, but even how hard it is for like pride infest everyone, right? And so it's so interesting of like the different perspectives of like where sin capitalizes in your life, whether you've walked with him and been stuck in the rules, and like whether you're the Pharisee trying to break that Pharisee mentality, or whether you're the like pagan.
Yep. All right. Well, Amy, you don't know this. Lynn and I do, but we just just threw my pen there.
Whoa.
So excited.
You are calm down.
Cannot wait until you know this.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm excited.
Lynn and I sat down with Grayson Little to talk country music and Southern rock.
Yeah. Oh.
Because he's becoming a star.
Yeah.
Out here.
Yeah.
Do you like country
awesome.
music?
I do.
You're big Elvis.
Did he talk about Elvis at all?
No, Elvis wasn't really country.
He had some country songs.
I guess so. You're right.
A little bit.
You're right. Yeah,
he's a country boy.
Do you know she's an Elvis
You know
fanatic?
better. Well, I was going to say, you know better than to say anything against Elvis.
Yeah.
You were like, he wasn't. She's like, whoa.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be that way. I should push my beliefs.
You're banking on the fact that Elvis gave his heart to Christ in that bad moment on the toilet before he died.
So. I believe he did.
Okay.
Yes, I believe he's in heaven, and I will see him one day.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to Grayson. Everybody else believe that Elvis is there.
Yeah,
And
he's there.
we believe alongside
waiting
you.
for us. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Love that.
Ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Nope. Elvis has left the building.
So, Grayson, you grew up at Seacoast, literally.
I
You
did.
grew up here.
I did. I started attending Seacoast at the age of 10.
Yeah. I forgot to do something. Welcome to the Seacoast Podcast.
Oh.
This is co-host Lynn Stroy. You know her.
Hey.
My name's Joey Svensson.
What's
This
up,
is
Joey?
Grayson Little. All right. Now, go ahead. See, I forget that kind of stuff.
Oh, no, you're good,
Thanks,
man.
man.
You're good.
You put up with me as a boss for like a year and a year and a half.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Thanks,
awesome.
man.
Lots of
Hey,
fun. Lots
thanks.
of fun.
Especially on the podcast,
For sure,
man.
dude. For sure,
Thanks.
dude.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, so I grew up at Seacoast Church. Started going to Seacoast 10 years old. My parents got divorced. My dad was a head of the Southern Baptist Association in Charleston. My mom was a school teacher. And so we started coming to Seacoast, got plugged in immediately. Got really involved with Seacoast students back then. Ernest Smith, Andrew Page, Sean Wood were all the leaders, I guess you could say.
Sean was in charge, right?
Sean was in charge.
Yep.
Sean was in charge, I think, for 2 years, and then Ernest took over. So back in the trailer days, man, the black mold trailer days. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. That's
Do
why
they
I'm,
always have mold in them from from day one?
I would say probably. I think that's why my immune system is so good right now.
How well do y'all know each other? How well do y'all like met each
I
other
mean,
and
we've been
stuff?
on staff for a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I played softball with your sister.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Here's my earliest memory of Grayson, and it was impressionable enough for me to remember it. It's such a tiny detail, but it was at a groundswell where Ernest talks some sort of trash about Georgia beating USC, and I hear Ernest is up there and he's teaching and he says something about Georgia, beating USC as an example or something, and I hear this kid yelling, yeah, but blah, 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 the field goal penalty, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, good gosh. This kid is serious.
That was me.
And Ernest was seriously like, Grayson, chill. That's
yeah.
how important Gamecock football is for you.
Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore. I'm a realist now as a South Carolina fan.
You've committed to the Nuggets, a winning team.
I have, dude. But prior, when they sucked. So I'm not technically a bandwagon fan. But yes, I was a ride or die, man, growing up. South Carolina athletics completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And boy, I learned a lot of disappointment very early on. Very early on. And how to deal with it for the most part, too.
And you and Brandon Lake were in youth group together, right?
Yeah.
Is it weird that he's just so unbelievably famous? That's your pal. You've seen him in youth group. I mean, you guys have probably spent the night together on camping trips and all that stuff.
For sure.
It's just kind of weird that he's worldwide now.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's weird. I would say that it's pretty cool. And knowing Brandon back then and knowing Brandon now, nothing's really changed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that really happens to
true.
people. So
that's true. That's a very high compliment.
Yeah, and he's still Brandon.
Yeah.
He's still Brandon for sure.
Yeah. Are you aware of his accolades recently?
I'm not aware of any of its accolades.
So is it country music, Charleston Artist of the Year, the state?
Charleston Singer-Songwriter of the Year.
Singer-songwriter.
Yeah,
oh wow,
Charleston
so way
Singer-Songwriter.
more than just country.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So all over the spectrum.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Do you like country music?
I do like country music. And let me qualify.
Okay, let's go.
I don't know artists or names of songs, but I like the sound of country music.
The new kind too?
What kind are we talking?
Well, I mean, I grew up, my brother, Garth Brooks was his favorite.
Really?
Yeah, and I even remember back in the single tape days, my brother gave me an Alan Jackson and a Travis Tritt tape because he thought that I was going to be like, I don't want to listen to this and give it back to him. Like literally he used to buy me presents that he wanted. And so like that kind of country, I don't really listen to the radio now, but if I'm like at a festival or something, somebody invites me to live music, I'm like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. For the vast majority of my childhood and then as a teen, up until I think it was my junior year of college, I would tell anybody, I don't like country. That's like the only music I don't like. And a friend of mine picked me up and he was listening to an old school, and it just sounded like folk to me. It was Willie Nelson. I love Willie Nelson's voice. And I was like, wait a second, this is country? He was like, yeah, it's country. And I was like, well, I like some country music. And then from there, it went Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash. And that's my era. I really I don't know what it is about new school country. It just doesn't do a whole lot for me. I love the old school.
I can feel you on that for sure. I think I've always been a little bit jaded until recently about, I guess, pop country or bro country, you could call it.
Bro country?
Bro country.
Yeah. So talking about like coolers and Coors Light and trucks.
Is that really a terminology?
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
Lynn and I just don't know.
That's amazing.
Bro country. Yeah. I was actually tracking last week and I was tracking a song and I was like, this feels way too bro. We got to stop and take 30 minutes and scratch everything. Not a bone in my body is like that.
Too bro. So I've already, when your singles come out, I listen to them, but I was listening to them all in succession today. And I noticed on iTunes, it all says country. And I kept, you and I have been texting back and forth. I kept saying, hey, we're going to talk country music. You're like, well, Southern rock. Southern rock. In my experience, because the same friend that introduced me to Willie Nelson's very gifted guitarist, and he did Southern rock, and no offense to him, I would enjoy seeing him play. I just was never into Southern rock, just kind of like, that's not my style. The stuff I'm listening to of yours, it sounds country to me. It does. It doesn't sound Southern rock because I don't really feel like I like it, but man, it's beautiful stuff.
Thanks.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I think it is. I think my direction, because I'm currently working on an album. Hopefully it'll be out in June. My direction is more shifting towards the Southern rock feel.
So tell me what Southern rock is.
Ooh.
And who are some household band names that would be considered Southern rock?
And sing a few lyrics because I'm not going to recognize names.
Let's play games. I like games.
Hey, we're definitely going to play a lot of your music on this. Just to give people a taste.
Okay, sick. Thank you for that.
So maybe you can drop a gift like something nobody's ever heard.
Ooh.
Whoa. You don't have to. No pressure.
Actually, that's
no pressure.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
My favorite song is Delilah, by the way.
Delilah feel is what we're carrying on with, but adding more guitars and more dirty Southernness, I guess
check
you
it
could
out.
call.
Dirty Southernness.
Yeah. So I'd say for me, like Southern rock, how I would describe it, Allman Brothers.
Gotcha.
Marshall Tucker Band.
See, I don't know who the Marshall Tucker Band is. Is there a song?
Can't you see? Can't you see? Can't you see?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or Fire on the Mountain. Fire on the Mountain, lightning in the air.
Is Southern rock Big Betty, something Betty?
Oh,
Betty.
Betty. Yeah, that song? I think so.
I just
think
made a fool of myself.
That's amazing.
Betty, go Betty.
I would definitely.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
Who wrote that song? Do you know? Not sure.
I wish I did.
Yeah.
I should. I probably should. But yeah, so I'd say that's kind of the Southern rock vibe, and like, oh man, why am I blanking on the name right now?
That's okay.
Sweet. Oh man, who sings "Sweet Home Alabama"?
Oh, Alabama, right?
No.
Alabama doesn't play "Sweet Home Alabama."
No, Alabama sings
country. Take me. No. My grandma's music. Grandma Mountain music.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my goodness,
Lynyrd
Skynyrd. Look at
that's right.
Man, I feel
that's pretty messed up.
I know.
Hey, your age is getting to you,
dude. I know, man. 32, dude. I'm losing my brain already.
Man. Do y'all? I'm gonna ask Lynn this. When you think country music and then Southern rock, do you think just redneck music? I don't have a problem with saying that.
I mean, I don't think. I don't. Well, I guess.
Here's the sucky thing: is redneck is associated with racism.
Well,
redneck's racist, and I don't think that doesn't need to be.
No.
You can be a redneck and not a racist.
Yeah, you can have engines tied up in your trees.
I would associate both of them because, so I don't always think racist when I think redneck, because I think of high school and the guys who drove trucks and always had a bottle for their dip.
Yeah, and a huge antenna with like a tennis ball on it.
And some of them were listening to
random CB radio for no reason.
Yes.
Right.
And then like the fish hook on the.
I remember that.
Yeah.
The bill hook.
So I think I think of people who fit that stereotype who were listening to Southern rock or listening to country. Mm-hmm. So they kind of bleed together for me in terms of like demographic listening to them.
Gotcha.
And I think too, it's like back to the bro country thing. I think like recently, like I said, I used to be jaded. I'm not really anymore because the dedication and time it takes to put in.
Right.
To any craft like that, and to get that big and the pressure that's
jaded
on you.
About the pop culture around it?
Just like the lyrics and how cheesy they were. But still, it's an art form and it's a craft, so I've become very more keen to respecting it. But the way that like country music is shifting nowadays, it's going back to I'd say more Southern rocky, but definitely more folky. Guys like Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson.
Mm-hmm. They almost feel like indie rock country.
They are.
Yeah.
But that's what's hitting. It's not getting necessarily airplay, but it is crushing it in live show sales.
Right. Jason Isbell.
Yeah. Last year, you could fact check me, but from what I was told, he had the highest selling actual physical selling record of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So it's just crazy to see how it's turned. But like, say, Zach Bryan, he blew up out of nowhere. He was in the Navy or the Coast Guard, something like that. He was recording his stuff on GarageBand and putting it out, and he is one heck of a songwriter. Mm-hmm. One heck of a songwriter. And so people started connecting with it, especially the college demographic. And they let him out of the military a couple years early because he was just too famous to keep in. For real.
Crazy.
He would go play shows every couple weeks, and they would sell out. But he's selling out stadiums and arenas, and he really doesn't even get played on the radio.
Wow.
That's cool, man.
Do you feel like that is like streaming services and the way that technology has changed the ability to find music has contributed to that?
Definitely. I'd say for sure. And I think people are searching for something different, especially this generation. What is this generation in their 20s? What are we calling
Z.
Yeah. I think yeah,
millennials. Isn't that crazy that millennials, that's an old it's like they're old now.
No, dude. We're like the baby boomers, man.
You're asking what is this generation?
What are these whippersnappers called again?
Dadgummit. I'd say that streaming services, because it's at the touch of your finger. It's at the, I guess, palm of your hand. So you can select anything you want to hear. Back in the day, growing up with my dad, one of my favorite memories as a child was riding to school, and we'd pick a different radio station every morning, whether it be pop, which was very rare, or it would be country, which I think it was Y102.5 or Y103 something, or the Motown station. Mm-hmm. And so you couldn't select who you wanted to hear. So you were force-fed, especially in the pop, I guess, pop and country industry in the 90s. You were force-fed what it seems like the man record labels wanted you to hear.
Yeah.
And that has changed.
Yeah.
That is 100% changed. There's also a downside of that. There's a lot of people that put music on streaming services that eat up space for, say, small indie artists. Because the way that some of these streaming platforms divvy out the money, you're not making any money on streaming unless you're...
It's like a fragment of a cent per listen or something.
I think I've made $1,000 so far.
And that's a lot for streaming.
Dude, I'm rolling in it, baby. I'm rolling in it.
And I was going to ask you that. Do you think that the internet, so it seems to me that the internet has provided opportunities that used to not be there. In other words, you can upload a song and then everybody has access to it, but there's flooded market of everybody trying to do the same thing. So you have the opportunity to get it out, but then there's more competition than ever. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So,
And it's,
I mean, if you could pick, would you prefer to be in the music industry right now in this era? Or could you kind of fantasize about the 90s, you know, when we didn't have all of this internet stuff? Like,
ooh, I've never thought about that, Joey. I think it would be a cool experience to do that. I think it'd be more cutthroat for sure. Nowadays, I feel like it's all about self-branding.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that really well, you become successful.
There you go. I'm going to contact Doc and Marty McFly,
Sick.
and then we're going to take you back
Dude,
there.
Come on.
We can test
come
it.
on, please.
We can test
please.
We can almanac
please.
with you.
Please. Yes, I will, for sure. For sure.
Lynn, do you think that, so I'm going to give you a scenario, and obviously I want to hear Grayson's answer to this too, but if Grayson tomorrow says, you know what, I love writing music, and I love that people like to listen to my music, but I'm actually going to spend time thinking about a song that is just going to blow up. Like I'm going to put all the pop hooks and just the bro lyrics, and I'm going to craft a song that I know has the best chance of just blowing up on the radio, and then I'm going to make my million, and I'm going to just go back to exactly what I want to do. Do you think that's selling out? Would that be selling out?
That's a great question.
You know what? I would say no. And the
I would
reason
agree.
why, and if he goes back to what he loves, he's got a following that followed him into what, you know, because I think about artists who like that. A lot of artists, that's how they start, right? Their record company gets them to do what they know is going to win. And then once they've made it there and people know them, they're like, peace out. Now I'm going to do what I want to do. And so I think it's like all of us that aren't artists. Like we have a job that pays the bills.
I totally agree.
And then we do what we love.
Right.
So...
Right. It's like, you know, somebody who is in the music scene, but they're just like, yeah, but, you know, I'm also a school teacher because I need income. Are they selling out as a musician because they're teaching kids? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But I bet you the music artists here would maybe beg to differ. What do you think?
This goes back to the I guess the whole bro country thing. I think I don't see any issue with it as long as eventually you could be like, yeah, I knew I had a hit song and I need the money to continue my career and be successful.
Right.
So I'm going to do everything in my power to make it that way. I think I could do it for one song, maybe two. And then I don't know if I'd be able to continue it because it's not necessarily me.
Yeah. Well, when you're writing songs right now, is it even possible? And I've talked to people who would say, 100% that's selling out, that's not art, blah, 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 and I get it. But is it even possible to write a song? Like right now, the songs that you're releasing, you have to be thinking about the listeners at some degree, or maybe not. Is it just, this is from the heart, don't care how it's going to, I mean, obviously you care how it's going to come across, but are you thinking about the listeners when you're writing a song? Or is it just from your heart? Or can it be both?
I think it could definitely be both. So there's like a couple of tunes that I've written that talk about the divorce I went through and how painful that was. And I feel like that was more therapy than it was actually, it was writing a song for sure, but it was more therapy than it was art, in my opinion, which is one and the same. I'm talking in circles. But
you're like, Joey, why didn't you send me this question
No,
beforehand?
You're good. Yeah, come on. No, you're good. I think it just depends on the song.
Yeah.
It depends on, am I sitting down to hone my craft and write a song, no matter how crappy this thing is, even if I'm singing about Ritz crackers, like it's getting it out. It's practicing the craft. It's strengthening the muscle. That's tough.
Yeah. Well, let me. I've got another question for you. As if Seacoast, like, would this be a dream? If like, there used to be a point for you new Seacoasters where pretty much every campus really had their completely different style of worship.
Yeah.
It was just completely, everybody is on their own. You do the worship that you want to do. Dude, at the James Island campus, we had a perfect blend, in my opinion, of like an indie rock country sound. That would be your dream, to be able to play worship.
It would definitely
be like some kicking country.
Definitely be.
That'd be awesome.
100%. I think, so I used to be at the McClellanville campus.
They would eat it up. All of them would like it.
So we were like stripped down bare bones. We had a kid on cajon, this kid playing bass. This guy named Jim, he plays in a bunch of bands around town. He plays in like one of the big party bands around town. And we would just kind of go with the flow, and everything turned out country, folky, no structure. I mean, we'd follow the song structure, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we were the only campus at that time that wasn't running tracks. Sorry, Sam. But yeah, I do miss those days.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this is kind of some real, this is neat because this was something that you and I walked through real time. You were about to release, what's the Colorado song?
Goodbye to Colorado.
So you were a little bit nervous about the lyrics, and, especially because you're a worship leader at a church, and the lyrics start off with alcohol in my veins, whiskey in my veins, and reefer on my breath.
Yeah, I had booze all in my bloodstream and reefer on my mind.
Yes. Now, was that biographical? Because everybody has their past.
Yeah.
Like, were you talking about biographical stuff?
Yeah.
And what made you so nervous is that, did you think Seacoast was going to be, hey, you can't admit that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's just going back. Like, I grew up Southern Baptist, so my mindset has.
You don't ever shake that.
No, dude, you always feel judged, no matter what you run a red light. Man, am I going to hell? You're not looking for the cops. You're looking for judgment behind you.
Hey, but I want everybody to know. I want everybody to notice that song had nothing to do with dancing.
No,
you would never do that.
No, never sing a song about dancing, dude. Can't move the hips. Can't move the hips. Room for Jesus. No,
does that make you nervous?
What?
He's a worship leader at Seacoast, and he also has a song on iTunes that talks about alcohol, reefer, and his experience with it.
I think I can't answer that unless I've heard the whole song. Because if the song is a like redemption change, this is where I was and this is where I am, or then that's one thing. But if it's like a celebration
glorifying
of it, that's a whole different thing.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
tell us a little about that song.
It's definitely not a celebration.
Booze all in my bloodstream, and reefer on my mind. Yeah, I work real hard in my week at the bar for like a million times. I had money in my pocket, but I was never satisfied by the life that I was living, running down the 9 to 5. 'Cause I was chasing those better days.
So that song came to be, I was living in Colorado, moved out there to help with a church plant, was married at the time, needed to come back to Charleston, and I was sitting on my couch, and the lyrics, my feet land in the ocean, but my head rests in the pines, came to mind. And then I got together with one of my buddies when I moved here, and we wrote it. And the song is about me moving from Colorado to Charleston to pursue music and to get back to where I needed to be. Colorado, I loved it. It was just a dark place for me. Was bartending and not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be leading worship, or I wanted to do music, and the music scene out there isn't
that really sucks. You want to lead worship in your bartending.
Yeah, dude.
You kind of missed the mark.
I know, just a touch. It's because I ran too many red lights, So that's what the song relates to, and it talks about, like, when I was in Colorado, I was definitely consuming marijuana. I was drinking a lot because I was bartending. But it keeps, the song at the end of the day keeps talking and reverting to, I was chasing the better days. And it's a redemptive song. The last verse is, there's a brewing pot of coffee wakes me up in my new house, and I remember what it felt like when I drove down to the South. Left behind my ambitions and all my fears and doubts, and I never feel as good as I do right now. So it's a song of redemption for sure. And I do it in, luckily, I was able to write it in such a way that it doesn't necessarily shove Jesus and redemption down people's face, but if they dig a little bit, they can get it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And everybody's going to approach that sort of thing differently, which I'm curious. Let me ask you this question, because everybody's going to answer this one differently. Would you consider yourself a Christian music artist?
Ooh.
or a Christian that makes art?
So I'll say this. I was actually having a conversation with Pastor Mahmoud a couple days ago. And it's definitely a two-sided question. I think I'll always be in ministry. I don't think that I am necessarily a Christian artist. I think I'm an artist that's a Christian.
Mm.
But I think ministry and Christian music are two different things as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If that makes total sense.
No, I agree. Yeah.
What does it look like being a worship leader and then having gigs on the side? Like, what's the, and I think that's kind of the, how's that, what's that tension like?
I'm exhausted.
Because you're up late on Saturday night. You got to be the first person.
Yeah. 6 a.m. me and Wally are just rolling out mats. You know what I'm saying? I think,
shout out to Wally Corbett.
No, Wally Corbett. He's the man. The OG. And with Wally, too, it's you could tell it's the seasons are changing because he's wearing flip-flops again. He don't need a groundhog. You just need Wally's feet to know. So...
It's a JI thing.
It's
John's,
definitely,
I don't understand.
It definitely. I'd say for the tension between the two, I feel a calling definitely to ministry, but I tend to relate to people more in the secular world, and not like I'm living in the world type of thing, but like conversationally. Like I've been through a lot in my life, and I feel like God's let me experience this so that I can relate to people. I'd say that there's been really, really cool moments at gigs, people coming up to me, and I get to tell them that I'm a worship leader, and they're like, wait, really? And you're still playing music at a bar? So I get to do my pastoring from a bar stool.
Yeah.
I get to do my pastoring. That's a song.
Yeah.
Daggone.
It is.
Yeah.
Look at that. Do we get credit because we were part of the conversation?
Technically, yeah. Crap, it's recorded.
We get a fragment of the cent of every download.
Yeah, you might get a dollar of the span of 10 years. No, I think there's definitely been times I'm an outgoing and boisterous person as it is, and so people can sometimes already think I'm drunk in public, and I'm not. It's just my personality.
Right.
So I think that we've had a couple run-ins with that for sure. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's much of a tension. I think it's more of a ministry than it is a tension. The only tension is my sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would be even personally comfortable with you saying, I am a Christian and my life is a ministry. To God be the glory as much as you can use me, but my art isn't necessarily my ministry. It's just art. I don't think that's necessarily how you frame it, but I'd be totally comfortable with someone saying, look, my whole life I'm trying to be a minister I want to represent Jesus, but this is just my art and it's a part of my life. So if you want to say part of my ministry, that's fine, but that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it because I want to write music.
Right. I
think for some people they'd be like, oh, it's a little tricky.
Yeah. No, and I think like depending on the songs that I'm writing too, it definitely is this I feel like they're all God-given for sure, but is this more of a ministerial song? Like one of my songs that I wrote, and it's been playlisted on Spotify, and I'm blessed for that. It's been playlisted actually twice, once right when it came out, and then a year and a half later. And it's kind of given me a lot of traction, which is nice. It's called Take Me Down River, and it's a song of, it's a definitely song of redemption, and like the opening lyrics are the line that I walk, it ain't straight and narrow. Lord knows how hard I try. Because we're not perfect. As human beings, we're not perfect at all. We're created in the image of God, but we aren't perfect and we never will be. The road that I'm on is leading to sorrows because I keep believing these lies. I went through a lot of that in my life. Thinking I wasn't good enough, thinking that I was not smart, not talented, not educated, so I leaned a lot on my humor. And then the chorus, I guess goes, take me down river and wash me in light and know that my soul is unclean. You can bury the old me neath the shade of the pines because the new one's not trying to leave. Take me down river, won't you please?
You got some preaching to do, right? What was the line?
Which one?
What was the line that Lynne just helped you come up with? I forgot. What was it?
Pastor from a bar stool.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think to go back to the question, I think it can be both ways as an artist. I think some of my art is definitely everything is an offering to Christ, in my opinion. But some of my art is not necessarily Christian, and some of it is.
Right. Because, I mean, if we're a living sacrifice, that is a totality. We're talking, that's the full picture. Lord, do with me as you wish.
Yeah.
And for some people, it may be doing paintings of beach scenes. You know, is that directly connected to your faith? No. Is that God's creation? Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Can people appreciate your art and be like, wow, God is wonderful. Look at that.
Exactly. Like, I'm a huge fan of Rick Rubin. I don't know if y'all know who Rick Rubin is. He produced Chili Peppers. He's produced, I think, Coldplay.
She loves Chili Peppers. She has shirts and bed sheets and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, really?
Go ahead, Grayson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Makes total sense.
Lynn has no tolerance for my
Are we
joking
talking
around.
90s Chili Peppers or nowadays Chili Peppers? But he doesn't play an instrument. He is just really in tune with, I guess, spiritual things. But I just recently read his book, and the line that stuck out to me was, everything is an offering and everything is a sacrifice. So even if you start a song, why are you stopping it? Because it's an idea that was given to you by God, and you don't do it justice if you don't finish it, no matter what it is. So if that passion is in you, it's an offering, if it's a sacrifice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I want to hear about American Idol real quick, just your experiences.
Sick.
But before that, you have released a bunch of singles currently. People can type
correct.
in Grayson Little on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to music. But you got an album coming down the pipeline?
I do. I'm finishing. I got one and a half more songs to finish, and I'm hoping that it'll be out in June. The target goal was April, so June, probably August.
You have a name for it?
I don't. I have a couple different ideas batting around in my head, but once I hear it fully through, then I think I'll be able to decide on it. So
I got an idea for you and Brandon Lake to do a tour together, because then you bring the country folks and then the worship folks and then all the country rednecks that aren't Christians.
Listen, I got an idea for the two. If that's the case, then I'll name the album. So one of the songs on this album is called like Saint and Sinner, because everybody still struggles with things. I struggle with a lot of things, and I feel like I do want to get back into a relationship, and I do want to get married again eventually. I feel like myself that I'm a sinner, which I am, and most of the people that I'm interested in, the women, they're saints. So the song is, she's a saint, I'm a sinner. Why in the world would she love a man like me? So, I mean, we could call it the Saint and Sinner Tour.
There you go.
Brandon's the saint, and I'm the sinner. There we go.
That's right. All right, American Idol, how long ago was that?
Oh, man.
Decade plus, right?
No, I wouldn't say a decade.
Okay.
I think it was 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
6 years ago. When I was living out in Colorado, I auditioned.
What was it like? How far did you go?
So anyway, the audition process looks a little something like this. There's cattle calls in different cities. Do the judges show up to these cattle calls? No. The one I did in Denver was at the Denver Performing Arts Center, and I think around 8,000 people showed up.
8,000.
And I was there first thing in the morning because I had to go to work. I did not want to do it. That was my third time auditioning, and I was just like, it's going to be another no. It's going to be another no. So I get there, I audition. You go into a room, and there's 30 people in each room, and there's 4 of these rooms. But in each room, there's one judge, so it's like 30 people, and everybody's split up into 5s or 4s. There's X's on the floor. You stand on the X. They call you forward. You stand on the other X. They send you back. So everybody was done. He's not saying much, and he's like, okay, guys, thank y'all all for coming out, but I don't think we're going to move forward. And he points to you. He's like, big guy, step forward. So I go on to the next round.
Were you like, what did you just call me?
I know.
Big
I was
guy?
Like, can I sue you for this? Can I get money from Fox? Life would be totally different. So then you go in front of another set of producers. So it's first casting producers, then it's like lower level producers. And there was like an hour and a half delay because the camera, and they film you there in this stage. They filmed me there in this stage, so the camera wasn't working, and they were trying to figure it out. So I started talking to a lady, and she was from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I forget what hurricane it was, but there was a hurricane that was about to hit. And I think she was from Wilmington, and it smacked Wilmington like right in the teeth. Didn't do too much damage. I think it was like category 1, category 2. So anyway, that was a side note. We got to know each other, started singing, got through to the next round. The next round is in front of the executive producers. Sang in front of the executive producers. Needless to say, I am scared, like out of my mind. I crushed that one, and then after that, they give you, I guess, the golden ticket. But then you go into another room, and do another audition. Anyway, I got through to the judges, and
so you were in front of Simon and all them.
So it was Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie. So it was the reboot.
What?
Yeah, it was the reboot. So after you get through everything too, like they got to make sure they do their due diligence, and you're not necessarily guaranteed. So I got the call. Luckily, they're doing the auditions in Denver. Got to go to Denver with my dad. But I was one of 3 people that made it out of that cattle call out of 8,000 people.
Nice. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So it was awesome. So that was kind of my first experience with lights and cameras and action and all the things.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing pretty well in the audition. Katy Perry told me no. She wasn't really a fan. Luke and Lionel loved me.
Who cares about what Katy Perry
I know,
thinks
Lionel
anyway?
Richie? That's the only one I'm concerned about.
I know. I was
ever heard Dancing on a Ceiling?
I know, dude. It's a daggum good song. So after that, I made it to Hollywood Week. Got cut in Hollywood Week, which is honestly a huge blessing.
Yeah.
Because
why?
I think if I were to go any further when I was at that stage in my life, I would have probably ended up in rehab. I would have really used substances to try to find myself.
Yeah, you weren't ready.
Not at all. So it was definitely a blessing, but I met so many good people, and I'm still friends with some of the people that were camera guys, and a lot of the people that I actually competed against. So it was a great experience, and
you're one of 3 Seacoasters, unless I'm missing someone. London Gatch did the American Idol. Chris Sly. He went really far, didn't he?
Yeah, he went to the final 8. He told Simon off on national television. Yeah, it was awesome.
He's Greenville. I think he was.
Yeah,
Greenville.
He was the Greenville guy.
Because I've heard that it is, and this isn't to denigrate your success, because obviously you do have great talent, but that's
what a
not
jerk, Joey. What a jerk.
That's not the only thing they're looking for. They're looking for a look, because I'm pretty sure they told, sorry, London, if this is wrong, but I'm pretty sure they told her you're almost too perfect. Like there was like a look they're looking for, and maybe she didn't match it.
Yeah, and like those shows at the end of the day, they do a lot of good for a lot of people, but I don't think necessarily everybody is meant to make it that way. And also, like if I did that, I'm a guy that really likes instant gratification. It's just how I'm wired. And it wouldn't. I don't know if I would have been able to put in all the hard work and the effort after the fact to keep it going.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a blessing in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Multiple ways. Yeah.
Sweet.
You've been listening to the Things You Won't Hear on Sunday Seacoast podcast. In the show notes, you'll see a link to our Facebook group page. Also, we'd love for you to consider subscribing so you get these episodes downloaded right when they come out. Thanks so much for listening.